My parents said I was jealous of my brother's creativity. I said I wasn't converting my apartment into a content studio for someone with 47 YouTube subscribers. I became the family villain for 2 years. I 26F never thought I'd be posting here, but after 2 years of family drama that finally resolved itself, I need to get this off my chest. This is going to be long because there's a lot of ground to cover and honestly I need to process it all. My brother, 23M, now 25, was 23 when this started, and I grew up in the same house, but might as well have been raised on different planets. I was the practical one. I started working part-time at 16. First at a grocery store, then tutoring, then interning during college. I studied business, landed a stable corporate job after graduation, and by 25, I'd saved enough to buy a small apartment in the city. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, nice natural light, exposed brick wall in the living room, but it was mine. Every dollar of the down payment came from years of working, saving, and saying no to things I wanted. My brother was the creative one. Always performing, always dreaming, convinced since childhood that he was destined for something bigger than our ordinary suburban life. And our parents, they fed into it. Every school play, every talent show, every time he announced a new passion, they were there with encouragement and open wallets. He's artistic, my mom would say. He's special. He just needs to find his platform. I didn't resent it. Not really. We were different people with different paths. I found satisfaction in stability. He found it in possibility. That's fine. That's normal for siblings. What wasn't normal was what came next. 3 years ago, my brother found his platform, social media. He was going to be an influencer. Lifestyle content, fashion, fitness, aesthetic posts, whatever that meant. He created accounts on every platform imaginable. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, even LinkedIn for some reason. He posted daily, used all the hashtags, studied the algorithm, bought ring lights and tripods and backdrop screens. 3 years later, here's where he stood. Instagram, 3,000 followers. TikTok, 800 followers. YouTube, 47 subscribers. Not zero, but nowhere near viable. Not growing significantly. The algorithm, as he put it, hadn't blessed him yet. But here's the thing about my brother, and I say this with love, or at least with the complicated affection siblings develop, he genuinely believed he was on the verge of a breakthrough. It takes time to build an audience, he'd say at family dinners, phone in hand, scrolling through his analytics. One viral video can change everything. The algorithm is suppressing me because I don't pay for ads. It's designed to keep small creators down. Every excuse except the obvious one, maybe the content wasn't compelling. Maybe the market was saturated with thousands of people doing exactly what he was doing. Maybe talent alone, if it existed in this area, wasn't enough. I watched him spiral deeper into this fantasy over the years. He'd spend money he didn't have on content creation expenses. New clothes he'd wear once for a post. A $300 LED panel because his $50 one washed him out. Subscription services for editing apps he barely used. He had 3,000 followers and called himself a content creator. I had a stable job and an apartment, and they called me the boring one. But my boring stability meant I had something worth taking. His creative passion meant he needed someone to fund it. Strange how boring produces assets and creative produces requests. Let me be clear about my brother's financial situation because it matters for what comes next. He didn't support himself. At 23, he still lived with our parents rent-free. He worked maybe 20 hours a week at a coffee shop, not because he couldn't find more hours, but because more hours would interfere with his content schedule. Most of his coffee shop income went directly to content creation expenses. Our parents covered everything else. His phone bill, his car insurance, his food, his streaming subscriptions. They saw it as investing in his future. I saw it differently. They were funding a hobby and calling it a career. My brother was 23 with no real job experience outside food service, no savings, no trajectory toward independence. But he had a ring light. Several, actually. It was a Sunday dinner at my parents' house when everything changed. The usual dynamics were in play. My mom fussing over my brother's latest post, so creative, honey. The lighting is beautiful, while my dad asked me pointed questions about my boring corporate job. My brother was showing everyone his phone, scrolling through engagement stats that I knew were mediocre at best. Then the conversation shifted. My mom set down her fork with a careful deliberation that told me something was coming. something I wasn't going to like. Honey, she said to me, we've been thinking about how to help your brother take the next step in his career. My internal radar activated. Nothing good ever followed that sentence. His content needs to level up, my mom continued. The apartment he films in, our house, it doesn't have the right aesthetic. It's too suburban, too. I felt it coming before she said it. But your apartment, she said, eyes brightening. It's perfect. City location, great lighting, that exposed brick wall. If he could film there, his content would look professional. We want you to let him move in and use it as his studio. I set down my water glass carefully. Move in. Not just visit occasionally to film. My dad jumped in, clearly rehearsed. He'd need to be there full time. You can't build a consistent aesthetic if you're going back and forth. He'd live with you, use the second bedroom as his studio, create his content there. I waited. Obviously rent-free, he added, as if this were a minor detail. He can't afford rent while building his brand. But when he makes it big, he'll pay you back, and then some. My brother nodded eagerly from across the table. I'll give you 10% of my sponsorship deals once I'm monetized. You'll be like my first investor. I did the math in my head. He had 3,000 followers. Monetization on most platforms required tens of thousands minimum. Sponsorship deals for micro-influencers, if you could even call someone with his numbers that, paid maybe $50 to $200 per post. 10% of nothing is nothing. He offered me 10% of his sponsorship deals. 10% of nothing is nothing. He was offering me equity in a company that didn't exist to pay for a home I already owned. That's not investment. That's fantasy economics. Dad, I said slowly. You said it's like investing in a startup. Startups have business plans, growth metrics, paths to profitability. He has ring lights, declining engagement, and the conviction that the algorithm is personally targeting him. That's not a startup. That's a hobby with expensive equipment. The table went silent. I tried diplomacy first. I really did. I use the second bedroom as my home office, I explained. I work from there 3 days a week. It has my desk, my monitors, my filing system. It's set up for my job. My dad waved his hand dismissively. You can work in the living room or a coffee shop. Lots of people do that. I like working in my office. That's why I set it up as an office. But your brother's career, my mom started, isn't a career yet, I interrupted, as gently as I could. It's a hobby with 3,000 followers. I'm not giving up my home office for a hobby. My brother's face went from hopeful to furious in less than a second. It's not a hobby, he exploded. I work harder on my content than you work at your stupid desk job. You sit in meetings and send emails. I create. I perform. I connect with an audience. Just because you don't understand the creator economy doesn't mean it's not real. I kept my voice level. The creator economy is real. Your participation in it isn't generating income. That's the difference between a career and a hobby. What followed was the worst family argument we'd ever had. My parents rushed to defend my brother, as they always did. That's cruel, my mom said, her voice thick with disappointment. He's trying. Not everyone succeeds immediately. You've always been jealous of his creativity, my dad added. You're practical. He's talented. Different paths. I'm not jealous, I said. I'm realistic. And I'm not converting my apartment into a content studio for someone with 47 YouTube subscribers. My brother pushed back from the table, tears streaming down his face. You'll regret this when I'm famous. When I'm famous and you're still sitting in your beige apartment making PowerPoints, you're going to wish you'd been part of it from the beginning. My apartment isn't beige, I said quietly. I have exposed brick. He stormed out. The door slammed. My parents looked at me like I'd just kicked a puppy. Would it kill you to support your brother? My mom asked. I support him. I don't subsidize him. There's a difference. She didn't see the difference. Neither did my dad. Update 1. A week after the dinner disaster, I tried to have a real conversation with my brother. Just the two of us, at a coffee shop. Neutral territory, public space, hopefully lower temperatures. I've looked at your numbers, I said carefully. Not to be mean, just to understand. I want to talk about this like adults. He crossed his arms but didn't leave. Progress. I'd actually analyzed his analytics. He'd shown them to me proudly once, not realizing what they revealed. His engagement rate was 2.1%, below platform average. His follower growth had been flat for 8 months. His comments came mostly from the same 15 people, probably friends and family, offering the same generic encouragement on every post. No viral moments. No breakthrough content. The data didn't support on the verge of success. It supported plateau. Your engagement is flat, I told him. Your growth has stalled. What's your plan to change that? The algorithm is rigged against small creators, he said, the same refrain I'd heard 100 times. Once I have better content quality, like filming in your apartment, the growth will come. Or the content quality isn't the variable, I said gently. 3,000 people have found you. They're not engaging. Maybe it's the content itself that needs to change, not the backdrop. His face hardened. You don't understand anything about content creation. You're just a corporate drone who thinks spreadsheets are more important than art. Spreadsheets help me see patterns, I said. And the pattern I see is that you've been doing the same thing for 3 years without results. Maybe it's time to try something different. He stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. Mom and Dad believe in me, he said. Even if you don't, you'll regret this. He left me with the check. Of course he did. Update 2. For 6 months, my brother didn't speak to me. Not a text, not a call, not even a comment on my rare Facebook posts. At family dinners, he'd look through me like I wasn't there. My parents sent guilt trip messages every few weeks. He's devastated. You really hurt him? Would it kill you to apologize? Family should support each other. I responded the same way each time, I support him. I don't subsidize him. There's a difference. And I have nothing to apologize for. I told him the truth about his metrics. Maybe instead of expecting my apartment, he should look at why 3,000 people found his content and stopped engaging. They didn't see the difference. Mom said I didn't support my brother. I asked what support meant. It meant, give him your apartment. Let him use your office. Fund his dream with your stability. That's not support. That's extraction. Support would be telling him the truth about his metrics. Nobody wanted to do that. Too mean. So they blamed me instead. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on his social media from a distance. His follower count dropped from 3,000 to 2,800. The algorithm he blamed hadn't become friendlier. The fame hadn't arrived. The backdrop he'd insisted was the problem remained unchanged, and so did his results. During those silent months, I had time to reflect on our family dynamic. My entire life, my brother had been the special one. The talented one who needed protection and investment and gentle handling. I was the reliable one. The one who didn't need attention, didn't need support, could take care of herself. So I did. I took care of myself. I worked, saved, studied, planned. And now that I had something worth having, an apartment, stability, a life I'd built brick by boring brick, they wanted to transfer it to the special one. My self-sufficiency wasn't a trait to be admired. It was a resource to be extracted. That realization hurt more than I expected. Update 3. A year after our original fight, something shifted. I heard about it secondhand from my mom, ironically, who called me in a state somewhere between confusion and distress. Your brother had a friend visit, she said. Someone he met at a content creator meetup years ago. The friend is actually successful now. Big following, real sponsorships. That's nice for the friend, I said carefully. The friend told your brother. My mom paused. Well, he told him some hard truths. It turned out this friend, now at 150,000 followers with actual brand deals, had visited my brother and watched some of his content. Then he'd given feedback that my brother couldn't dismiss as jealousy or ignorance. Your content looks like everyone else's, the friend had said. You're not offering anything unique. And posting from your parents' house isn't the problem. I built my first 50,000 followers in my childhood bedroom. The location doesn't matter. It's the content. And honestly, you seem desperate in your videos. People can tell when you need the validation instead of just having fun with it. My brother was devastated. A year of blaming the algorithm, blaming me, blaming my apartment, blaming everything but himself, and another creator, someone who'd actually made it, had cut through all of it in one honest conversation. His friend with 150,000 followers said the truth nobody else would. The problem wasn't the backdrop. It was the content. Brother had spent a year blaming my apartment, blaming the algorithm, blaming me. Another creator cut through all of it in one conversation. Sometimes the messenger matters. Something changed in my brother after that visit. He took a break from posting, something he'd never done in 3 years. The daily content schedule he'd maintained religiously went silent. For 2 weeks, his account showed nothing but old posts gathering dust. Then he got a job. Not a coffee shop shift, a real job. Entry-level marketing assistant at a small company. 40 hours a week, benefits, a salary that wasn't glamorous but was consistent. He kept creating content, but differently now. Less desperately. More as a genuine hobby than a last-ditch career plan. His posts became less frequent, but from what I could tell from my distance, more authentic. He wasn't trying to look like every other influencer anymore. He was just being himself and occasionally posting about it. His mental health improved. His finances improved. He was able to buy himself things without asking our parents. He started contributing to household expenses, something that had never occurred to him before. He wasn't famous, but he was stable. When he got a real job, his content actually got better. Less desperate, less try hard, more authentic. Turns out financial stability creates better art than financial desperation. The thing he thought he needed, my apartment, was never the missing ingredient. He was. Update 4. A full year after the original fight, 2 years after he'd first started complaining about my apartment's potential, my brother reached out. It was a text, late at night. Can we get coffee? I want to apologize. I agreed. We met at the same coffee shop where I tried to show him the analytics. He looked different. More settled somehow. Less like he was performing even when no one was watching. I wanted to apologize, he said before I could even order. For the studio thing. For calling you a corporate drone. For expecting you to fund my fantasy. For all of it. I let him talk. You were right about the metrics. I didn't want to hear it because I'd built my whole identity around becoming famous. If I wasn't going to be a successful influencer, then who was I? Just another random person with a job? That felt like failure. And now? I asked. He shrugged, a small smile on his face. Now I'm a random person with a job and it's actually fine. Better than fine. I like my coworkers. I like having money I earned. I still make content on weekends, but it's fun now instead of desperate. My engagement is actually better because I'm not trying so hard. What changed? He apologized a year later. Said he finally heard the truth from someone who made it. I could have told him the same truth, but he wouldn't have heard it from me. Sometimes family is too close to deliver hard messages. Sometimes you need a stranger to say what your sister can't. My friend, he admitted, the one with the big following. He told me everything you'd been saying, but I could hear it from him. I don't know why. Maybe because he'd actually made it, so I couldn't dismiss him as not understanding the industry. Maybe because he wasn't my sister, so I didn't have years of sibling rivalry clouding things. Probably both. Probably, I said. He paused. I was so convinced that the backdrop was the problem. That if I just had the right aesthetic, the right lighting, the right urban location, everything would click. But he built his audience in a messy bedroom with one cheap ring light. The setting never mattered. I was the problem. The content was the problem. The desperation was the problem. We ordered coffee. The tension that had defined our relationship for 2 years started to dissolve. I'm at 4,200 followers now, he said. I know that's still nothing in influencer terms, but they're actually engaging. Real comments, real conversations. And I got my first small sponsorship. A local fitness brand wanted me to post about their new line. Paid me $200. That's great, I said. And I meant it. 10% of $200 is $20, he laughed. So I technically owe you for my original offer. Keep it, I said. Consider it an investment that paid off in a different way. Update 5. Final. The resolution. It's been another 6 months since that coffee shop apology. My brother has his own apartment now. A small one-bedroom in the suburbs, shared with a roommate who allegedly doesn't clean the bathroom. He complains about this regularly, but it's his. He pays for it with his own salary from his marketing job, which he's been promoted at once already. He still posts content. About 5,000 followers now across platforms. Still not famous, but still growing slowly and organically. He's found a niche, realistic lifestyle content for young men navigating their first adult jobs. Not glamorous, but relatable. The desperation is gone. He seems genuinely happy, both on camera and off. Our parents have adjusted. It took time. They were so invested in the special creative son narrative that watching him become a regular person with a regular job felt like a loss to them. But they're proud of him now. Differently proud. Proud of his independence, his growth, his ability to support himself. They've also stopped pressuring me about helping him. There's nothing to help with anymore. He's helping himself. That's what growing up looks like. My apartment is still mine. My office is still my office. I upgraded my monitor recently, a nice curved display that makes work from home days more comfortable. Last week, my brother came over for coffee. Just a visit. Not to move in, not to film, not to use my space for his content. Just to see his sister. He looked around at my home office, the desk I'd set up myself, the shelves with my books, the new monitor. "This is a nice setup," he said. "Thanks. I work here 3 days a week." He nodded slowly. "I get it now. Why you said no. This is yours. You built it. You're building yours too," I said. "Different pace, different path." He shrugged. "My apartment is a shoebox with a roommate who doesn't clean the bathroom. But it's mine." He picked up his coffee, held it near the window where the light caught it just right. "For Instagram?" I asked. "For me," he said. "Maybe I'll post it later. Maybe not." We drank our coffee. The ring light he'd once demanded space for wasn't mentioned. It didn't need to be. My brother wanted my apartment to be his content studio. He had 3,000 followers and believed he was one good backdrop away from fame. My parents wanted me to give it to him because he was the creative one and I was just the practical one with the apartment. I said no. For a year, I was the villain who didn't support my brother's dreams. The corporate drone who crushed creativity. The jealous sister who couldn't handle his talent. Then his dreams met reality. A real creator told him the truth I'd been trying to say. The backdrop wasn't the problem. The content was. The desperation was. The expectation that someone else would provide the platform was. He got a job, moved out of our parents' house, started paying his own bills. His content got better when he stopped needing it to save him. He has 5,000 followers now. Not famous, not failing. Just a person with a hobby and a job and a life he built himself. That's what I wanted for him all along. Not the failure of his dreams, the right sizing of them. The understanding that creative passion doesn't entitle you to other people's resources. The realization that you can love making content without making it your entire identity. The growth that comes from supporting yourself instead of waiting for someone else to do it. My apartment is still mine. My office is still mine. My brother is still my brother, but now he's also an adult. That took longer than it should have, but it happened. And the apartment I refuse to give away is where he visits me now, as an equal, not a dependent. That's worth more than any sponsorship deal he might have never gotten in my second bedroom.